Oregon's failing kids pretty badly.
New tonight, how well do you know your neighbors? Living in communities across the state of Oregon, maybe even yours, are people convicted of sex crimes. Just looking at Oregon's public sex offender database, though, you would not know that. But do you even need to? Tonight, Katu Investigates is on your side, digging into a debate over that database and just how much information you should have access to. On one side, parents and lawmakers who say the database is paramount to public safety. On the other, experts and advocates who say it provides a false sense of security and doesn't actually keep you or your kids safe. It's all part of a special three-part Katu Investigates series. The question tonight, who does Oregon's system protect?
Stay with it. You got it. Oh, good ball through. Woo!
Courtney Gelbrich and Mendoza's journey into the deep end of Oregon's sex offender laws started on a soccer field of all places.
Menantes! Good job. There you go. Oh!
Courtney's husband coaches their girls' team with Jane.
Received a phone call from our registrar one night saying, hey, did you know that there is a sex offender parent on your team? We did not. We pulled up the roster of all the parents. We entered every single name in the Oregon database, and not a single person showed up on it.
It took a national database to confirm that tip was true. That's because the parent in question did not fit the criteria for Oregon's public database, despite a conviction for possessing child pornography. Here's why. There are currently about 34,000 registered sex offenders in Oregon. The state puts them into 3 levels based off their danger to the public or their risk to reoffend. Level 1 is lowest risk. There are about 11,500 of them. Level 2 is medium risk. There are just under 3,000 of them. Level 3 is the highest risk. There are just under 2,000 of them. There are also almost 18,000 who don't have a risk level from the parole board yet. But out of the thousands of registered sex offenders in Oregon, this is all you can see online. That's because the public registry only shows level 3 offenders. That's just 5% of the state's registered sex offenders. What did that make you think of the Oregon database?
Well, it startled me because every time I've moved, I've looked on the Oregon database.
Jane says she now realizes she wasn't getting the full picture. On the flip side, Katie Gotch says, if anything, Oregon's public database goes too far.
It provides a false sense of security.
She's a certified clinical sexual offense therapist. Katie has advocated to limit sex offender databases to just law enforcement and says parents often rely too much on public databases. Are you confident parents in Oregon can protect their children without a public database?
I would say that with appropriate education and similar, yes. Because what the research has shown is that community notification does not prevent sexual abuse.
The research, in part, is a 2008 New York study. Researchers looked at 20 years' worth of sex crimes arrests in New York. The study found 95% of suspects had no prior sex crime conviction. In other words, if you were utilizing the registry, you would not have ever found those individuals.
Exactly. The reality is you are more likely to intervene and protect your children by paying attention to who they're spending time with and how those individuals are interacting with your child.
What do you make of that argument that people lean too much on these databases and ignore other people who could be a threat to their children?
I think it's valid. I think there's also a huge piece of parenting that is talking to your children. It's arming them with the resources to know this person is doing something or saying something or asking something of me. It's incredibly inappropriate, and I need to tell a trusted adult. The database is a handy tool to just kind of have a little bit of backup, a little bit of assistance.
Oregon Voices is a volunteer nonprofit organization that provides resources and advocacy for people who have committed sex crimes and their loved ones. They argue, quote, the public registry doesn't just punish one person. It punishes entire families. We work with parents who tragically can't find housing because their spouse or child is on the registry. Children of registrants are bullied at school. Entire families become isolated. But what about the victims and their families? These competing views come up year after year at the Oregon Capitol. Republican Representative Kevin Mannix. What do you say to people who say these public databases do not do much for public safety?
Well, I'd say, first of all, the accessibility of the information is important. Suppose you have a neighbor that you think is a little strange and you wonder how safe it is to have your kids in that neighbor's yard or near that neighbor's yard. You're able to look that person up if they're on the website and you see that this is a very dangerous pedophile. Well, you can respond to that. You have an opportunity to get the information.
Republicans, including Mannix, repeatedly sponsor legislation to expand the public database to include more offenders.
That we have victims out there, people who have really been hurt, and they want to know that someone's been held accountable and that the rest of the community is aware of that, so that the community has a better chance at being protected, because not everybody goes straight after being convicted.
The legislation fails year after year amid a debate over the balance between public safety and allowing people convicted of sex crimes to move on.
We currently have only our highest level on the public registry, which is our level 3s. Expanding that simply convolutes who is truly at risk, who truly presents a risk to the community.
There is a balance that has to be achieved, and I think the balance right now needs to be in favor of letting the public know when they need to about those offenders who are out there who could be dangerous to the community.
How do you feel the state is doing with that balance today?
I think they've got the balance off. I mean, hugely off.
Courtney and Jane say the current system protects the wrong people and leaves kids like theirs in danger.
It's not about putting up a billboard with someone's information on it or sending out a mass email or a mailer. It's not about outing someone. It's having the information at our fingertips so that we can protect ourselves, so that we can protect the kids in our communities and in our families, just with the knowledge.
Knowledge that advocates on both sides are split over just how valuable it is. And Katie tells us the money spent on maintaining public databases could be better spent on preventing sexual violence in the first place and treatment to ensure people who have caused harm don't do it again. She also says early education for kids on things like boundaries and personal space is key. She says the state could do much better in both areas. The public database is only one part of this emotional debate. Another part is how registered sex offenders are monitored by local law enforcement. We found that at some point, supervision ends for almost every person convicted of sex crimes. We'll break down that in a report next Monday at 6. And now that we've explored both sides of the debate, we want to hear from you. Point your phone's camera at the QR code on your screen and tell us, who do you think should be listed in Oregon's public sex offender database? No one, only police should see that. Only the worst offenders, most offenders with exceptions, or all registered offenders. Right now, most of you saying all registered sex offenders. You can find even more coverage and this question right now on K2.com.